Hot Mic is brought to you by Red Wing Shoes of Fargo. Built to last. 3003 Main Avenue, Fargo.
Hot Mic with Dom Izzo.
Really? Really, Dom?
No.
I like what Dom's doing.
Okay.
Dom Izzo.
Jeez, come on, Dom. What do you think I am, a magician?
Yeah, I'm fired up, Dom. What else could I say?
Absolutely. It was great to get on the field, and then Dom came up to me, and I'm trying to walk away from me. I just wanted to enjoy myself out there.
Hot Mic.
Great job.
There's got to be some kind of intelligent question about something.
Coach Dom Izzo, WDAY in Fargo, North Dakota. Can you give me a layup or something?
Hot Mic. Presented by Northwestern Mutual.
That program is second to none.
On the networks of WDAY.
You know, if it's not about sports, I find it very hard to concentrate.
Here's Dom Izzo.
Good Friday morning. Welcome, everybody, to Hot Mic on WDAY Extra. KSFL TV, good morning to our friends in Sioux Falls and in Western South Dakota on KNBN TV and everyone watching online at Inforum.com. Happy Friday, everybody. Our last parking lot edition of the summer, because a week from today we'll actually have high school football games. Means people actually have to work back here a week from now. Welcome to the show, everybody. I am Dom Izzo, host of said program. Happy Friday. Quick thanks to my guy Sam Getzinger filling in for me yesterday. Yesterday was a heavy day for me and my family. I'm sure many have saw the obituaries that came out over the last week out of Breckenridge and Wahpeton. My mother-in-law unexpectedly passed away last week. On top of that, my wife's aunt also passed away a week before that. It's been a really heavy few weeks for our family, especially for my wife, especially for my 7-year-old son to go through. And yesterday was really emotional. So I appreciate the words that have come out, especially to my wife. Everybody knows both my mother-in-law and my aunt in that part of the world in Wilkin County. And it meant a lot. And we got another heavy day tomorrow, but I appreciate Sam filling in yesterday, and was a lot, but it's nice to be back, and we'll get through today, and then have another heavy day tomorrow, and then we'll you got to move forward, right? Put it one foot in front of the other, which is really hard, especially when you're grieving, but trying to do our best at a really difficult time. So we'll try and take our minds off of things, at least for the next hour and 58 minutes or so, with the toy department stuff that we normally talk about during this program from 9 to 11. But I appreciate all the well wishes out there, both that said to me in person or online or messages or phone calls. It's been a lot, and I know certainly everybody, it means well, and it goes a long way at this time, really does. With that, we'll try and segue to start our program here on a Friday. And we got a lot to get to. Obviously, we're on the doorstep of the first Viking game of the year tomorrow. I know it is a preseason game. I know the weather is still going to be nice, but I'm sure there'll be plenty to be parked in front of the television tomorrow at noon to see Kyler Murray play, to see J.J. McCarthy play, to say Carson Wentz is going to play tomorrow for the Vikes opener against the Giants. We'll get to that. I know Sam talked a little bit about that on the show yesterday off the news that Kyler Murray was announced as the starting quarterback, which happened on Tuesday. We dived into that earlier in the week. And now we'll get to see it come to fruition, at least for game one. I'm beyond interested to see how much all of them play tomorrow against the Giants to start things off. We had a full night of preseason games last night. We're going to scan that coming up in just a little bit. Again, making overarching evaluations on night one of preseason football is probably folly. Plenty are going to do it. Plenty are going to base their fantasy football drafts off of it. But it is football being back, which people are excited about. And we're 2 weeks out, 2 weeks from tomorrow. We've got the Bison season opener. 2 weeks from yesterday, UND's opener, the Dragon opener. So it is fast approaching. As I said, the high school season opener is a week from tonight. Yeah, it's coming, and it's coming like a freight train here in the not-too-distant future. So we'll chat some high school ball as well with one of the defending champions in North Dakota, Class A football, coming up later on. Langdon area Munich, Let me get that right. Ed Moore's out of it now. It's just Langdon and Munich. It used to be all of them. Ed Moore's out of there now. So we'll discuss that coming up later on in the show. We'll also have our guy Cory Provus join us coming back from Dyersville, Iowa. We'll show you the highlights of the game from the Field of Dreams here in just a moment as the Twins get an off day today. It's the rare Friday. They've had the two most random off days this entire season. They had a Wednesday off back in June, you remember, because of the World Cup being in Dallas when the Twins were playing Texas. And now they have a Friday off because they played last night in Iowa. They'll resume their series with the Phillies coming up tomorrow. And just a couple of quick observations before we show you what went down last night. I only watched a little bit of it. My mind was elsewhere for obvious reasons yesterday. But I thought, honestly, the setting for it is tremendous. When they first did this 5 years ago, when the Yankees and the White Sox played there, I mean, that was phenomenal. Now they have a permanent structure there in Iowa to do this. I remember we checked in with our old pal John Schaefer, who was still working in Iowa down then, and he gave us a whole tour of it when we were when he did the show way back when, 5 years ago now, to see what it looked like. It's different now. Like, I wouldn't say it's made for television now. 5 years ago, they were just like, all right, we're going to try it. They did it again, and then they peeled away for the last couple of years. And now it looks like with a permanent structure there, they could probably do this until it gets old. You know, sports is a way of, hey, this is really cool. We're going to beat this idea into the ground and then go away from it. Like the Winter Classic for hockey is a great concept. And then the NHL said, well, okay, we'll do other spots, and took away from the coolness of it just being once. Now they have like 5 or 6 stadium series events a season. It takes away the notoriety. It takes away the novelty of it doing it once. If you do it once a year for baseball like this, I think it's A-okay on that. Second, Netflix had the broadcast last night, so I'm not sure how many people actually watched this. This was Netflix's third baseball foray this year. They had the season opener with the Giants and the Yankees, which seemed like a Netflix infomercial for about 2.5 hours. The game was barely mentioned. They had the Home Run Derby, which I think some of the innovations there were better in terms of how it was produced, how it looked. I thought that was a step forward. Last night was back to basically producing the game. And you'll see, if you didn't see the highlights of it, we're going to show you here in a second. A scoreboard is too big for my liking. I've never been a huge Matt Vasgersian guy. That's just my own personal preference on that. Who was doing play-by-play last night. I always think if you're going to do it the NBC way. They've had Jason Benetti call the games, but have the local analysts on the broadcasts throughout the season on Sunday Night Baseball on NBC. Be that as it may, they decided to do what they've done. I will say, they hired Barry Bonds and Albert Pujols as part of their pregame show with Anthony Rizzo and L. Duncan. And Bonds, who never said anything interesting. Bonds was always confrontational. He was always standoffish, especially after from 2000 to 2007 when he was done. Everything was confrontational with Barry Bonds. Everything was. So now it had to feel absolutely surreal for Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens, who were both there. Clemens, obviously, his son Cody, plays for the Twins. That at the start of the game, they had the 25 Hall of Famers or so come out of the corn, and Bonds is there and Clemens is there, and both know they are never getting into the Hall of Fame. I saw that clip last night, and then knowing that Bonds was there, and I didn't know Clemens was there till later, like, boy, that's interesting that those guys are there, and they full well know they're never getting into the Hall of Fame. Be that as it may, there was a baseball game last night. The Phillies, who are one of the best teams in baseball after a disastrous start to the year, they fired their manager. They promoted Don Mattingly. They've become one of the best teams in the National League. They had the players come out of the corner. I mean, if you've never seen the actual movie, like, drop what you're doing and do it this weekend, because it's tremendous. As for the actual game, Kyle Schwarber, who might be the National League MVP this year, swats this one into the corn out and right to start the game. The leadoff hitter off Taj Bradley. And the Twins had one of their dudes going last night. Makes it 1-0. It's 2-0 in the bottom of the second. I was watching this live. Brandon Marsh was being interviewed when Luke Keeschall hits a home run out into the corn in left for a 357-foot shot. Makes it a 2-1 Philadelphia lead. Problem is that guy Schwarber came up again. And again, swats one. That's a great reaction to see Cody Clemens here. Now watch Keeschall. This is the Jose Canseco-esque play. Not off his head, but off the glove for another home run. And I don't know if this is the end of the Keeschall experience in the outfield, but it literally hit his glove and goes over the wall for a home run. Makes it a 4-1 game. Bryce Harper batting adds to it in the top of the fourth to score. Trey Turner with an RBI single. Remember, the Phillies have moved Harper around. He's back playing the outfield now for the first time in years after playing first base. Meanwhile, Aaron Nola was dealing. One of Philadelphia's old horses here. Went 5 innings, struck out 9. Marsh would add the third home run of the night for the Phillies, a 2-run homer here in the top of the 7th. That made it 7-1. That would be your final as the Phillies pound out 12 hits against Minnesota pitching. Twins are held to 1 run on 8 hits. Nola, as I mentioned, struck out 9 as Philadelphia gets the win in the Field of Dreams game to start this series. 7-1. Twins drop to 3 games under 500 in the process. Travis Adams went 2 2/3 innings as Rogers and Nance finished it off. The division race looks as follows. White Sox still in front, 2.5 clear of Detroit, 3.5 ahead of Minnesota, with the Guardians right behind the Twins, a half game back of them. The wild card race, again, we'll follow this until they're out of it, and even 3 games under, they're not out of it. The Tigers traded Tarek Skubal, and they're in the final spot now. Make it make sense. Rangers a half game back, then the Twins, then the Guardians. I guarantee you when we come back Monday, this will look completely different. There's no way this looks the same in terms of the wild card race when we were back here on Monday. That's the way it's gone this entire year. And last thing on the entire setup, because it looked good on TV. I thought it's a novel concept, and I think people know me well enough to know I'm not an anti-streamer. You do it because that's where the games are at. I'm not sure Netflix having football is different than Netflix having baseball. Football, it's a once-a-week deal. We know months ahead of time that the opening game, right, the Melbourne game is going to be on Netflix. So you can get fully prepared for that 49ers-Rams game coming up next month in a couple weeks' time in Melbourne. You know they're going to have a couple games on Christmas Day. They're going to have the game on Thanksgiving Eve, if I remember correct, right? You can plan for that. The baseball bit is so bleeping bizarre. It's like the Apple TV package as well, where at least I know now because they've been doing it for a handful of years. All right, I think Apple's going to have games on Friday. Netflix, if you're cherry picking here, we're going to have the Field of Dreams game. We're going to have one other game in the Home Run Derby. It's like, is it worth it to get it if you don't have it? And that's, I don't know if there was a rush of people to subscribe, especially around here that don't have Netflix. Because I had people asking me yesterday where I was at, like, well, is the Twins game on tonight? I'm like, yeah, it's on Netflix. And immediately I got a furrowed brow. I'm like, I don't get that. I'm like, I get it. I understand. I'd like to tell you it's not going to be that way going forward, but it's trending in that direction. Although, for our next segment, I will say this. The NBA has decided to maybe reverse course. That's a little tease for the full schedule came out yesterday on that. We'll get to that in just a minute. Last thing before we get going here on this Friday morning, I mentioned we have preseason football back. We had 6 games last night. And as per usual, we're going to follow the exploits of the former Bison that are either trying to make rosters or cement their spot on said teams last night. Across the league last night, we had a smattering of guys that play. Christian Watson barely got out there for the Packers last night in their game. Green Bay played the Steelers last night. Marquise Siegel played for the 49ers, had a couple of tackles in their loss to Tennessee. The other game that saw the former Bison in action was in Houston. The Chargers were playing the Houston Texans, which meant second year for Trey Lance back as basically Justin Herbert's backup quarterback in L.A. for a Chargers team with Jim Harbaugh leading the way. Remember last year, Trey had a really solid preseason, played in that Hall of Fame game, got things momentum-wise going for him. He played just a bit because Herbert never misses a game. Ask Easton Stick about that. He lived that for 3 years as Herbert's backup. Last night, Trey started in game number 1 in Houston. Played a couple of quarters last night. By the way, mustard pant warning here on a Friday. Good job, guys. That's a nice throw. Again, now, remember what I said earlier. Do not get over the moon on preseason highlights. I'll say this, though. The throws he made and the completions that he had were spot on. I mean, this is a good throw on a little slant across the middle to Keandre Lambert-Smith, who had 4 receptions for 58 yards last night. Here, he's good at this. Little rollout. I mean, this is right out of the Bison offense. We've seen that time and time again into the flat. That went for 14 yards. Then, another zinger. He went 12 of 20 last night in his time in the game for 164 yards. He did throw an interception and was sacked twice. Again, he can do this as well. Tuck it down, make a guy miss, cut back up the field, picked up a first down. He ran it 3 times for 27 yards. Chargers won the game. Again, that's almost inconsequential as the final score. The stat line is the more important part. 12 of 20, 164 to pick, sacked twice. He's going to be, unless there's some injury issue that happens here, he's going to be the backup for Justin Herbert. And he's an interesting case study going back to the J.J. McCarthy news that we were talking about earlier in the week. Because Trey has played so few games in the regular season. It's comparable to McCarthy. And obviously the 49ers made the decision. Brock Purdy left them with no decision, right? Purdy played so well that it was beyond a question that they had to move Trey Lance. I'm looking right now. He's now about to start his, this is crazy to say this out loud, his 6th NFL season. He's played 16 games. So what has JJ played? 11, 12? So we're in that same ballpark there. I don't know how you have any evaluation of the guy. He has 200 pass attempts in 5 years. And I'm not shilling for him because I covered him and I know him. It's just, I think that's fact to me. He has 5 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. And since he played his rookie season with the 49ers, he played 6 games in his rookie year before he got hurt. After that, 2 games in 22. He didn't play at all in 2023. That's the year he got traded in preseason to Dallas. He played 4 games in 24. Remember, he started the finale that year because McFeely was there when the Cowboys played the Commanders to wrap up the 24 season. And then he played in 4 games last year. I can't believe he had 57 pass attempts last year. That's crazy to me. But that's it. That's, again, I don't think nearly enough. Some have already declared he's a bust because we're 5 years in. He's on his 3rd NFL team now, which that is, under the definition of it, that's the, you would say that's a bust for the number 3 overall pick, that he's on his 3rd team since being drafted. But I don't think he's played. And that's, to relate it to the McCarthy part, it's like, all right, well, if they've gone with Kyler Murray and Murray works out, then it's JJ's not going to play again. that, and I know Sam played the sound yesterday that McCarthy gave on Wednesday after Vikes practice there, that he wants to be here, and he's saying all the things, right? He's saying everything that he wants to be a part of the team. He wants to be there. What else is he going to say? His agent, though, is probably saying something else. Like, where's his path to the field here? Because it certainly seems blocked, especially if Kyler Murray ends up playing and playing well. We'll find out. It all starts tomorrow for the Vikings with their opener against the Giants. We got a packed show coming up for you here on this Friday morning. Our guest lineup is brought to us by our friends at Northwestern Mutual. We'll be joined by Cory Provus driving back from Dyersville, Iowa, coming up here in about 15 minutes' time. Give us his thoughts. He was there last night. Him and his son went to the game for the Twins and Phillies. We'll get his thoughts on the atmosphere there and about this stretch. We talked about it at the start of the week of who the Twins have. Obviously, with the Phillies here, still some heavy hitters to come with the division race changing by the minute. Now the Tigers have suddenly found life after being miserable for 3 months of the season. That's coming up at 9:35. At 10 o'clock, as we're a week out from the start of the high school football season, Josh Krivarchka will join us from Langdon area Munich. The Cardinals, the defending champions in Class A football. What do they have in store in 2026? They've got a UND commit back. Landon Schneider is on their team. We'll talk with Josh about that at 10 o'clock. And at 10:35, new Bison transfer wide receiver Jeremiah Patterson will join us. My conversation with him after transferring in from Arizona. He is impressed throughout the first few weeks of Bison camp and looking for some receptions out of that Bison wide receiver group next to Mekhi Collins and Jackson Williams. We had Isaiah St. Romain on yesterday. Patterson's another one that is in that mix at wide receiver to play, and potentially on special teams as well. You'll see some of his highlights from Arizona, what he can do in the return game. That's coming up to wrap things up on this Friday at about 10:35. That and a heck of a lot more here on a busy Friday morning. We'll take our first break. We come back. The schedule is out from the NBA. The Wolves are going to be on TV a lot this year. We'll highlight some of their spotlight games and also what the NBA is doing this year. Hot Mic returns on WDAY Extra right after this. Off and rolling here on a Friday morning edition of Hot Mic. Glad you're joining us. Cory Provus will join us about 10 minutes' time to chat about the Twins Field of Dreams game last night. Email came into the inbox yesterday afternoon as I was catching back up with things last night as the Timberwolves' full schedule was announced. The entire NBA schedule came out yesterday, and we got some droplets of this earlier in the week with the news the Wolves are going to play on Christmas Day at home for the first time ever, getting OKC to come to town. And I was reading through this, and a couple things jumped out at me. First, the amount of home games they have early on in the season, they better take advantage of that because it's going to flip, obviously, in the second half of the season in a way that's going to be awfully difficult, knowing full well, remember, in March where the state basketball tournament, they have to schedule around that, so the Wolves are going to be gone for a healthy about of the middle part of March, and they end the season with a couple of heavy hitters. And there's some weird back-to-backs that they have, so to speak. When I say that, it's like it's not actually back-to-back nights, but they're playing the same team 2 out of 3 nights in the same spot. They're doing that with the Lakers, I think, both times this season. They will play the Lakers on back-to-back days or back-to-back games December 16th and 18th, and then at the end of the season, April 7th and the 9th, they play at the Lakers both those times, which I know is new part of the schedule they're doing. We highlighted here 8 games to pick from, or 7, for the spotlight games for this upcoming season. That starts October the 21st is the season opener at Miami, which means Giannis making his debut with the Heat. That game's on ESPN to open up things on October the 21st. October the 25th is the home opener. That's a Sunday night against Toronto. Now, I know what you're thinking. All right, well, wait a minute. What's the Vikings' plans for that particular Sunday as well? Like, is there a double dip? Can I do 2 games? The answer is you can. The Vikings play the Colts at noon that day at U.S. Bank Stadium. So for you crazy people out there, and I say that lovingly, if you want to go see the Vikings play, and by the rich people, maybe is the best way to describe you, go see the Vikings play at noon that Sunday, and then stick around and watch the Wolves opener against the Raptors. I mentioned the December 16th game. There's the Lakers coming. That's the first of back-to-back home games with Luka and the new-look Lakers. Remember, LeBron does not play for the Lakers anymore. That's a Friday night, a Wednesday night. They also play on Friday, December the 18th. I mentioned the Christmas Day game, or night game, December the 25th against Oklahoma City. That's in prime time against the Thunder. January the 18th, I have it highlighted there because they're playing the Knicks in New York. That's a game that's on NBC. That is by the way, they got every holiday special game. The Wolves got picked for it, whether it was Martin Luther King Day, which that one is, January 18th. President's Day they're playing on, which is the next one, February the 15th, against Charlotte. Which, by the way, why would that be highlighted? Well, that's LaMelo Ball's return to Charlotte. That, by the way, is an 11 a.m. start. I do not remember ever the Wolves playing an 11 a.m. game, but they will on Monday, February the 15th. So there we go. You got Hot Mike that morning, right into Wolves basketball against the Hornets. That game is on, I believe that's an NBC game on, it is. February the 15th at Charlotte will be on NBC. And then the final one, February the 28th, that also I highlighted, Boston comes to town. That's a Sunday game, another NBC night game. That is going to be the night that I believe they're going to announce this sometime during the show, that Kevin Garnett's jersey is going to be retired that night, which makes a ton of sense if they're going to have that on prime time on NBC. That's part of their Sunday night basketball package, that Kevin Garnett's jersey is going to be raised to the rafters and honored that night. That has not been official, but the Wolves put out an email during their deal yesterday. It says the Timberwolves will make an additional major announcement tomorrow, August 14th, revealing details surrounding the highly anticipated jersey retirement celebration honoring Wolves legend and Hall of Famer Kevin Garnett. Everything is pointing to that game against Boston. Obviously, Garnett won an NBA championship with Boston. That everything's pointing to finally that union coming back together that night, and that will be an awfully hard ticket to get. Be pretty cool as well that finally the two sides are coming together for that. So there's some of the highlights of the Wolves' schedule. I teased this earlier. I just want to say this quick before we got to go to break. The NBA is actually this season having more games on broadcast television than they did last year. They went from 76 a year ago to 90 this year. That's a major increase. That's also including the fact that the Western Conference Finals this year, the Eastern Conference Finals this year are going to Amazon Prime. That's part of the rotation there. NBC had a conference final this past year. ESPN or ABC is always going to have one up until I think the final year of this deal. So this year, Amazon will get a conference final. ESPN gets the other. Obviously, ABC has the NBA Finals throughout the length of the deal. But more games to counteract our streaming conversation we had earlier. More games are going to be over the air for the NBA coming up this year, including an 11 a.m. Wolves game on NBC. We'll break. We come back. Our guy Cory Provus will join us from the road. He was in Dyersville yesterday. We'll get his thoughts on the Field of Dreams game and a couple other big Twins moves when we return on Hot Mic after this.
This is Hot Mic with Dom Izzo, presented by Northwestern Mutual.
Deep to left center field. Back it goes and gone. The 0-2 pitch. Hey, struck him out swinging at 101. Swinging a drive. Left field and deep. Back it goes and gone. And the Twins walk it off again.
All right, it is that time on a Friday. We get a chance to visit with our guy Cory Provus, who is actually driving back with his son. They were at the game last night in Dyersville, Iowa. Obviously, the game was on Netflix, but they decided to drive down and take it in person. It's great to visit with you as always. We showed the highlights off the top of our show. You were there. Give us what the vibe was. How did it feel to be there?
I mean, it really is everything that the hype and the buildup that you hear about seeing the grounds, and is it gonna meet expectation? I think it does that and then some. It was awesome, and thankfully the weather cooperated because there were all these doomsday scenarios that we kept hearing about. But a funny story is I was there with my son Cooper and then some friends, and we went to breakfast in this in downtown Dyersville at this really nice diner, and we're leaving, and this guy says, "Hey, don't worry, we're going to play." I'm like, "Huh?" And it's pouring. And he says, "By 3:00, this is going to be gone. We're going to play." And I'm like, "You're the only one that I've heard say that." And I'll tell you what, this guy knew what he was doing and knew what he was talking about, because we played, and it was great, and all the pageantry, and yeah, I don't get, maybe I'm a little, I'm used to it and I see it every day, but yeah, it was hard not getting emotional. I put my arm around my son watching the Hall of Famers come in from the corn. I mean, come on. That was so cool to see that in person. Is something I'll never forget.
Yeah, that part I saw, I didn't know they were doing that. I figured the players would because they did that before, but they'll have the Hall of Famers there, Cory, and you saw them in person. That had to be something else. Yeah,
and seeing, these guys come in, and I was, telling Cooper who these guys are, but seeing Jim Cott, come through the corn, and he and Burt were like the first two guys out, and then you had Molitor right there. I mean, it was really incredible to see all that, and then Joe was a part of it, of course, too, and Mike Schmidt got a huge hand, as he should have. Steve Carlton got a big hand, so I thought it was so great. I thought every part of it outside of the game itself was just so well done, and so bravo to Major League Baseball, to Netflix, to all that, and the Twins for letting us kind of tag along was something that we'll never forget.
To see the players embrace it, though, as well. We showed it earlier of them coming out of it. They're looking around. I mean, I know these are professionals, but I think it had to affect them as well when they're coming out, walking out of the corn and seeing what's in front of them.
Yeah, remember, none of these guys, these current players, were like born when the movie came out. Okay, right. So that's how these guys are, but they've heard about it, and I'm sure they've seen it, but it was neat. I didn't know about it till today, but when we were walking out last night, so where they play the game is not the site of the movie. That's next door. Like, you literally walk to the cornfields to get from one spot to the other, but when we're leaving the field, the game field, we're walking through the movie site field with the White House and the barn and all that, and we see, and I'm like, that's Roger Clemens in his 21 Red Sox uniform. Like, what is Roger Clemens doing in his Red Sox 21 uniform? Well, I guess Cody came out later, and they had a fun moment of Cody in his full uniform and Roger in his Red Sox uniform, and they said, "Hey, Dad, you want to have a catch?" And I think they caught that on social media. I think it's out there, but it was like, what is Roger Clemens? It didn't hit me that that's what they were going to do, but a great idea. Yeah. It was really something.
Is this – obviously, they've expanded the ballpark. Now that you've been there – I was talking about this earlier on the Winter Classic, that the NHL has, beaten into the ground because now they have other games outdoors besides just the one on New Year's Day. Is this something that baseball can do every year, Cory, or is this once every couple years without it getting stale?
I think they can do this every year. Yeah. I think for a new fan base, I think it's, over time you'll obviously recycle fan bases and teams will go back, but I think this first time, like, I read rumblings that maybe it's going to be the Red Sox and Royals next year, just based on how the schedule looks, and they haven't announced it yet. But if you just got to do the math and look at where the game is, and a random Friday in August kind of adds up that's what it's going to be. And it's great. And, this was the third, I think, game now at the Field of Dreams site, and it's awesome. And I think they should do this every year. I think this is something that every family, if they can, should experience. I think every player, if they can, should experience. It is something that, and I'm so happy that my son's 13, because if he was 4 or 5, we'd still go, but he wouldn't remember it. But now, to be able to really have video of playing catch with my son on the outfield grass and left field is something that I'll cherish forever.
That's really, really cool. What was the crowd like? Was it hardcore baseball fans? Were there people from Iowa there? What was the sense you got from being there?
I think the hardcore fans. So if you went down the lines. There were like risers and bleachers, no seating in the outfield. But I think the fans were down the respective lines, and they were probably the loudest of everybody. It was more quiet, corporate,
Okay.
But family kind of, with the Twins player, because there's only so many seats. And so they did a good job making sure that the players' families could experience that too. So it was quiet. I'll say that. I mean, early in the game, before the game got out of hand, it was really quiet. And in some ways, it felt like even a modified spring training atmosphere to a point. But then all the pregame stuff blew that out of the water. But in terms of once the first pitch was thrown, it did feel like more of a spring training kind of vibe. But the diehard fans, they were down the lines. And I'd say the loudest that it got, not just the Schwarber, leadoff home run was something. Then the second homer, that was an odd play.
Yeah.
But when the Twins were down 5-1, then Royce was coming up with the bases loaded and facing Aaron Nola, and the Philly fans down the right field line, they got pretty loud. So that was probably the loudest that I sensed that the ballpark was, outside of Schwarber's leadoff home run.
I know you weren't working last night, but I'm going to ask you a couple of baseball questions when you were there. Byron Buxton activated. How big a deal now he's back to re-energize this lineup with him being back in there?
It's great, but we need to see that he can do it.
Yeah.
And, I want to see him steal a base. I want to see him go after a ball in the outfield and dive, and because he's so great and he's a leader of this team in every possible way. But we want to see Byron Buxton at his best. And, if we're only going to get 70%, 75%, it's good. But is that what we want? And I get the sense, though, he's not going to DH. And I think that's right. I think at this point of the season, a contending team, Josh Bell needs to play. And Josh Bell is not great at first base. We know that. That's why he doesn't play there very much. That I think if Byron plays, Dom, it's going to be in center. That if he's not in the lineup, he's not playing. That I think that when the Twins need a DH, is unless Josh Bell's off for a day, that's one thing. But I don't see Josh Bell playing first base the rest of the season unless we're talking about an emergency situation. That Bell's role on this team right now is an everyday player. Let him DH and let Byron play center. And if he can't play center, then I think Byron's off that particular day.
The other major thing was you mentioned the second Schwarber home run was off Luke Keeshaw's glove. I know there's a bunch of loud people online saying the Keeshaw outfield experience should end. What do you make of what went? Because he's had a couple of those out there. Give me your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think that it's too early to write the book on that. That it wouldn't shock me next season if Keeshaw is told to just prep for left field. That I think I think that's kind of where this is going long term. Is that I think Keeshaw is going to be in left field and some semblance of. And Larnach's been great. I mean, I hope that Larnach stays. Maybe there's a platoon of Larnach and Keeshaw in left for a while, but. Walker Jenkins is going to be a part of this team. Emmanuel Rodriguez is going to be – he's out of options next year, so he's got to make the team out of camp. So I would put Emma ahead of Jenkins right now on the depth chart, and I think Rodriguez is your right fielder. If not this season, then next season. That's how I kind of look at it, just based on roster. But I think Keeshaw, to say that he's done, he's 23 years old. I'm not ready to do that to him anytime soon. But I think, to be fair, the Twins have to tell him, look, this offseason, prep for the corner outfield spot. And I think we've talked about this before, but I think that's a massive topic that this team has to solve. And I'm not just talking about Keeshaw here. I just don't know how this team gets better defensively, Dom, with moving as many guys around as they do. I don't know how they fix those numbers. That I think in the offseason it's got to be Royce Lewis, you're a first baseman. That's what you have to think about. Luke Keeshaw, you're our corner outfielder, left field, right field, what have you. Cody Clemens, if there's going to be one guy that's going to move around and bounce around, it's going to be him because he's good at it. He's good at it, but your best teams in baseball, they have one of those guys. They don't have four. And I think that there's no path for this team to get better defensively until they solve that.
We have not talked since Kalen Culpepper got brought up last Friday. It's been a week. What do you evaluate? I know it's only 7 days in the major leagues. How's he look so far in your estimation?
The arm strength is real. I mean, there's no doubt about that. The arm strength is legit. He has got a very, very strong arm. He's got a lot to clean up, though. He's working every day with Ramon Borrego and Toby Gardenhire on doing just that with his feet and his internal clock and all that has to just be faster and be sharper. But the arm strength is real. We haven't seen the range yet. You know, he told me that his favorite play to make is the one in the hole it short, the Derek Jeter kind of, backhand spinning jump throw. That's his favorite play. He's got the arm strength to do it. There's no debate about that. And the at bat, it's a learning. I mean, I think we've seen it this year. There's never been a bigger gap than, excuse me, Doc, the corn.
It's all right.
Sorry about that. It's got
okay.
me. There's never been, I think the gap right now between AAA pitching and big league pitching is cavernous. This is like an abyss with how big the gap is right now, and we're seeing that. So, give him time. He's going to adjust, and he'll make, necessary changes with his approach and with his swing. All that's coming. But what stood out to me, the home run was great in Milwaukee, but the arm strength that I heard about and read about and maybe saw marginally in spring training, that's legit. He really has that.
I have to add, we showed the standings early in the show on the American League Central. The Tigers, Cory, are in second. I thought Detroit was done. They traded Tarek Skubal. What has happened? Is Detroit in this thing now?
Yes, they are absolutely in this thing because they have, one of the favorites for the American League Rookie of the Year in Kevin McGonigal, stud. Yep. They have Troy Melton, very good. He got an ERA in the ones. They just got Jackson Joe back. He'd been injured the last year and a half. He's a young, promising power arm. Dylan Dingler is a stud catcher, defensively and at the plate. I think that they're absolutely in play. And they brought up one of their better prospects in Max Clark to play the outfield. Riley Green's dealing with a hamstring injury. That's worth watching. But it's a good lineup that underperformed when their best player was out for May.
Man.
I mean, May changed everything. They had a terrible May where they won 6 games in the month of May.
Bad. Yep.
So that's it. I mean, their season was defined by one lousy month. And you say May, but that stretch really began with a 4-game sweep at Target Field back in late April. That's kind of where all this was going downhill for the Tigers, was that 4-game series. But I think they're absolutely for real because I like their lineup. I do, and they're not striking out very much. And I think Kevin McGonigal is going to be a perennial all-star and a problem in the AL Central for years.
My last thing for it, and I really appreciate you doing this on the road. I know he's not been up for 3 months now. Matt Wallner gave a really, I thought, eye-opening interview with the Pioneer Press. I don't know if you saw it earlier this week, saying basically he believes his time with the Twins is done. I don't know. I don't think that's breaking news. I think a lot of us probably assume that as well. My question to you is, I was shocked how forthright he was with the media on that. That might be something you say to another teammate. I was really surprised, Cory, how open he was, knowing that this door is probably closed on him. This chapter is probably it's crazy considering a couple of years ago he was one of their top guys. He thought they're going to build on him, and it's likely over now.
Yeah, I mean, I see where he's coming from, and I get it because there have been chances for him to come back up, but he hasn't been brought back up, and I see why. I mean, you look at it from where the Twins are at. What kind of team are they trying to have? I mean, we had this note on the air the other day, and it was courtesy of Chris and the guys on Twins Radio. It was a great note that Josh Bell became the first Twin to strike out 100 times this season. And the Twins were the last team in baseball to have a guy at 100 strikeouts. And, to be fair, if Matt Wallner was on this team, he would have hit that number in May?
Yeah.
I mean, he would hit that number really, really early because he was striking out all the time. And that's, that's an issue. It really is an issue. So it's something that I know that he is trying to work on. He has been working on, but to be fair, he's again, going back to my point about the gap between AAA pitching right now and the big leagues.
Right.
We're seeing it. I mean, Matt Wallner is putting up video game numbers, incredible numbers in the minor leagues, but you come back up here, big league pitchers are finding that gap that he has. Up and inside, that high fastball with velocity, with the swing that he has, he's not been able to make the change to hit that pitch, and I think that's part of why he's not been asked to come back up. So we love Matt, local kid, awesome story, but I totally see where he's coming from in terms of where he's at in his career.
You got a Friday night off. What are you doing? You going to tear it up, or you laying low?
I'm laying low. I mean, it sounds like it's going to be a family, kind of a movie night, picnic movie night, dinner, kind of a nice Friday night. That you're right, that having a Friday night at home is you don't get many of these.
No, man.
So I'm going to just chill out with Dana and the kids, and then get ready for the Fighting Phils tomorrow.
Who are you working with this weekend?
I think Justin.
Okay.
I think I used to ask Dick Bramer all the time, like, who are you working with, and I always found it odd, like he didn't always know. He was 100% right.
Yeah,
100% right. Like I don't know, but I think it's Morneau. I think so. But I just show up, and whoever I'm lucky enough to be next to is fine by me.
There you go. Safe travels, man. Thanks so much for doing this on the road, and we'll talk next week. Okay.
It sounds good, Don. Thanks, buddy.
There he is, Cory Provus from the road, driving back from Dyersville from being at the Twins game last night. He and his son taking it in as they saw the Phillies beat Minnesota last night 7-1. Off today, and then 2 more with the Phillies. And I mentioned this, and we'll talk maybe some more after the break. They got the Atlanta Braves coming to town early next week. Anytime Atlanta and Minnesota playing baseball, especially in the Twin Cities, it just automatically conjures up memories of 1991. But the Braves are really, really good this year. They were running away with the National League East until the Phillies turned their act around. We know another team didn't turn their act around the National League East, but Atlanta's good, and they come into Target Field for a 3-game set starting on Monday. All right, we'll break. We'll wrap up our first hour. We got some football chatter coming up in hour 2. So we roll on a Friday morning show. Hot Mike rolls on. We're back on WDAY Extra right after this. All right, wrapping up our first hour. Our thanks to Cory Provus for giving us some time as he was driving back from Dyersville, Iowa, and the Twins game last night on the Field of Dreams against Philadelphia. They'll resume that series at Target Field tomorrow night, then a day game coming up on Sunday for the Braves come. And it again, making declarative statements in this division race, and you look at it where Detroit is now suddenly back into it, and Cory gave us his thoughts on the Tigers and certainly being back in the mix. But the next 2 weeks really could make or break if they're going to be in this thing or not, talking about the Twins. Because we mentioned they have 2 more games with Philly, really good. 3 with Atlanta, really, really good after that. Then it's the second of 3 trips to the West Coast as they'll go play San Diego next weekend, and the Padres are in it, and then the Athletics, where you got to take advantage of that ballpark, and the Twins did last year. They were hitting bombs in that minor league park out in Sacramento. And then at the end of the month, it's the White Sox and the Tigers right into September. So if you're looking defining part of the season, the next 3 weeks may very well do it. One email before we go to break. Come on, Dom. Schwarber isn't even in the top 10 in the National League. Talk to your wife. She'll tell you about Pete Crow Armstrong. Well, yeah. Yes, thank you for the PCA reminder. Schwarber's going to get votes simply because he hit 37 bombs. He's going to get consideration for that. But PCA, development from with the Mets. How'd that go? Javi Baez working out well on that Mets trade. All right, we'll break. We come back. We'll start our second hour. We'll talk some Langdon area Munich football with our guy Josh Krivarchka on the defending champs in Class A. What do they have in store in 2026? That's coming up. We start hour 2 on a Friday morning. We're back after this.
This is Hot Mike with Dom Izzo, presented by Northwestern Mutual.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Rolling on here on a Friday morning. As I mentioned, a week from today, we are playing ball across the state. A week from tonight, we're going to have our first high school game televised. We're going to be out in Valley City. We touted that earlier in the week on their brand new turf. Valley City will be hosting Velva. It's a pretty good Class A game. Speaking of Class A, the reigning champs, again, is residing in Langdon area Munich. They went undefeated last year. They beat Botno to win the Dakota Bowl, and they are poised to be pretty good again. breaking news, the Cardinals are all right in football. Longtime friend of our show, Josh Krivarchka, joins us, longtime head coach of Langdon area Munich football, joins us on a Friday, a week out from their opener. Little road trip for them. They got to go to Oaks. That is one end of the state to the other to open up 2026. It's great to see you. Who's doing the scheduling, by the way? You got to go to Oaks for game one?
Well, I mean, that well, thanks for having me first, Dom, but, we kind of flip-flop each year, and, it's worked out where, we have got Oaks on the schedule in Valley City, and so, Oaks is obviously a little farther than Valley City for us, but, Valley City comes up to us this year, and I think after this year with how they're going to realign everything, we'll probably have some new non-conference games on the schedule. We always try to schedule, as good a competition as we can in our non-region games. And so works out where we go down to Oaks, and Oaks is always a playoff football team. That's a good football team. It's always a good test for us right away. And so, it's a long trip, but, we like making the trip to kind of see where we're at, and it's a good measuring stick for our team always.
I'm going to ask the impossible question right out of the chute. Do you know what your region's going to look like next year when this all comes about, or not yet?
I mean, you hear stuff. I know that the board of directors, they are in charge of everything now, from what I've heard. They used to have a smaller committee. Now they're going to realign everything. I think it all depends on the big schools. Like, right. I've heard that they want to get to 16 teams, which I think would be great.
Yes.
And then that'll trickle down to, the AA and then into our division. I don't think our division will change a ton. Like, there might be a team or two that has to move up, but, I think our division will stay pretty much the same. And I think, they're pretty set in lockstep that they don't want to make 9-man bigger than 40 teams too. So, that's kind of the variables they got. But, it all starts at the top. And if they get the top right, I think it trickles down to the other levels, where I think the other levels can be in a lot better spot then too.
We have not had the top right in a long time, so that'd be nice if we get that. That's my opinion. You're not saying that. I'm saying that. The top hasn't been right for a while, so hopefully we can get that rectified. So I have to ask, you won the championship, which ended, the crazy drought that you had. Were you able to go about in town and people not give you a hard time anymore?
Yeah. I mean, well, the hard thing is just getting back to the championship. When you lose a few semifinals in a row, you start to you get people to question if you're ever going to get back there again. And it is true. I mean, you got to cherish it when you do get back to the Fargo Dome. We've been fortunate enough to make it, 5 times in the last 9-10 years, which is pretty remarkable for our small town. Yes. But to get there and just be a part of it, it's always a special day. And I just always tell the kids they don't know how lucky they got it, because it's a pretty unique situation, and it's just fun to be a part of. That Friday in November, that's what everybody kind of circles. And to me, it's the greatest sporting high school in North Dakota for one day is that event, and it's always fun to be a part of it.
Well, I remember talking to you about it both the day of the game and afterwards, about you appreciating it. And granted, you were there and won so much, and then to be away for a few years. How much did that appreciation settle in a week, 2 weeks, months after the game? Of, man, it was awesome to do that again.
Well, and it is awesome. I mean, it's just kind of the whole build up. The week goes by so fast, and you're preparing so much in a quick time frame. And it's just cool for the kids. They get to go practice in that new Fargo Parks District building, and and then the day comes, and it's like a blur. And then you try to take it all in, but then you realize, well, we might never get back here again. So, I mean, you just got to really cherish it and really enjoy the moment of being there. And, it's just, it's a special experience, and one that, I never forget each time we make it. And I know our kids will never forget.
All right, 25's over, and I'm sure you've been hammering that to the first week of fall camp. What does 2026 look like for the Cardinals?
We're excited about our football team. It's, obviously we lost some really good all-state type football players. We lost kind of our quarterback who was player of the year, but we transition where we bring back a good team up front. We bring back 4 of our 5 guys off our last year's team, and our quarterback, he'll move from wide receiver to quarterback, and Easton Schaefer, we're pretty confident in him. He's looked really good through fall camp, and it's kind of the transition that we had to make, and we got some younger kids that have really stepped up. The good thing about our kids and kind of our team and our culture is that they put in a lot of time and effort in the off season, and then into the summertime and stuff, and so you really see it start to take form when you get into fall camp, and we're excited to see what they can do on Friday nights. Obviously, we're like any Class A type football team that you only have so many kids out. You only have so many kids that can play at the varsity level. So first and foremost, you got to stay healthy if you want to be competitive when you get to November. So we want to stay as healthy as possible, and playing our best football when we get later in the season.
Josh, we've talked about this before, but I'll ask, especially when you have such a short run-up. You started practice last Thursday. How much can you get into the nitty-gritty with things knowing you play a football game a week from tonight?
Yeah, I mean, we have it, it's been like this for probably the last 5 to 7 years, so we have it pretty down in stone exactly what we want to install each day, what we want to get done each day, so we know when we get to next Monday, for instance, that now we're preparing for an opponent. Up to this point, it's we have position battles going on just like everybody else. We're installing everything, but it's a fast install. Obviously, if you go back and look, and that's what I always do over the years, you go back and watch film later in the year, you kind of throw out weeks 1 and 2 in a sense that, they're pretty vanilla. We're vanilla at times, and, it's ugly football at times in week 1 because you just haven't had a lot of time to do stuff. And so it is what it is. The positive I always say for us is, the first 2 games, although they're important, because later in the year you want them for seeding and stuff, making sure you're playing your best football. But, they're non-region games, so they're not at the top of the list. So, you can work on things, try some people out in different spots. So that's always the positive for our division, at least.
One of your guys being back, we had on the show last month, Josh, and Landon Schneider, who committed to UND. Give us your evaluation of how this came about, because it seemed like it almost out of nowhere, and then bam, he's a Division I recruit.
Yeah, I mean, pretty cool story. He last year he was an all-state lineman for us, but last year he was probably 6'4", 2 1/4, I would say. And even the other day we weighed him in and he was over 250. I mean, but just, through the winter and in the spring, he was really transforming his body, and I even still think he has a little more room for growth as far as height and stuff. He's just, he went to the UND camp, like you kind of heard on your show. And then we went to the team camp about a week later, and, really showed him, what he can do. And just a hard-nosed kid, very smart, intelligent kid. Always played center for us over the years, and plays D tackle for us. But I think he's got a high ceiling, and he's just a big kid that's a physical football player, and super excited for him because he works hard, comes from a great family, and you love to see kids that work like that really work out, and his future is bright. So that's always fun to see.
Josh, it's not just Division I guys. You've produced a ton that have gone on and played, whether it's football or other sports at the collegiate level. How much does that help? I know in a small area to get more guys out, let alone the fact you're sending to play sports at the next level.
I mean, I don't really know if it's a huge help, but I just think that, kids look up to these kids and they want to be like them, like the Rumpful boys. Like, I mean, a cool story about them, Dom, even yesterday, we got 4th, 5th, 6th grade practice going on, and who's out there helping run 4th, 5th, and 6th grade is Grant and Simon Rumpful, awesome. Working with them young kids. I mean, it's just, they're giving back to our community that, those kids look up to them. They think it's pretty cool. And, really, I just think that it creates hey, we can go play at the next level. And I I don't really think people realize how good you have to be to play at a UND or NDSU nowadays. And, to have, those kids be there and, just kind of be the footprint for all these younger kids. I mean, I think it's pretty special. And to have Langdon be kind of the next guy, that's quite the accomplishment right there.
All right, I got a nerd stat for you here. You can roll your eyes at me, but I'm going to ask anyway. I just added this up. Over the last 10 years, your football team has lost 13 games. That's it. 13. I'm sure you probably remember all 13 of them, right?
Well, I might not remember them all, but, in the last about 4 or 5 years, my kids have been ball boys, and they remember every team that they do not like. And so they don't like Kindred anymore. And I'm like, well, we used to beat Kindred, guys. And they're like, no, we don't like Kindred. They didn't like Velva until we finally beat them last year again. So, any team that beats us, my kids do not like. And so I hear it around the house, well, we don't like that team. So it is pretty remarkable and says a lot about our team and our kids. But, you remember the good ones, but you always remember the losses. That's for sure, too.
That's a remarkable stat, though, just of consistency. It's one thing to be good 1 year or a couple years, Josh. To have that, you got to be awfully proud that that's the kind of legacy that you got going with your program.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a testament to our kids and the work they put in and the belief that they have and everything. It's pretty cool. And like I always say, is you got to have good athletes that come through. I mean, you're only as good as your athletes and what they can do out on the football field. And we've had some really good ones that have came through. And and the biggest thing too is along with that is knock on wood, we most of the years we've stayed relatively healthy, and that always helps. If you stay healthy and you have good athletes, you can do some special things with those type of teams.
All right, last thing is a hot button I've been talking about this week. We talked a little bit of this off air. I've been throwing this out there now with Valley City adding turf. What are your thoughts if I said the high school league wants to go, okay, we're going to play the state semifinal games are going to be neutral site locations on turf. What do you make of that?
Well, my biggest thing is if we're playing at home, that's tough to give up. Yep. We're a smaller community, and we haven't lost a home football game in a long, long time. So that's always tough from that standpoint. If to me, if it's predetermined, going into the season, and we say we're going to predetermine it once the brackets come out that, this side you're going to be playing at this site at that site, I can live with that. Mm-hmm. I just think it has to be somewhat predetermined. You can't just wait until the last week up to it and say, all right, now you guys are going to go play in Fargo or you're going to go play in Minot or whatever. I mean, a few years ago, for example, we played Kindred and their field wasn't ready, and we played the state semifinal at Fargo North, which I thought was great. It was a great environment. The footing was great. I mean, and it was like a home crowd for Kindred, which it should be because it's right next to them. But, I thought it was a great environment for everybody. But I think that the predetermination has to be done if we look at that. And I know there's been talk of it over the years, and it's kind of always got shot down. Yeah. But like you said, there's more and more schools that have come with it. And, although you hate to give up a home playoff game like that, I can see why everybody would be in favor of it. That's for sure.
It's great to see you, man. Thanks so much for doing this. Good luck next week. I know we'll be talking throughout the season. Appreciate the time this morning.
All right, I appreciate it, Dom, and have fun with the football coming up. It should be a fun year for the Bison and UND and everybody else in the surrounding area. So we're just excited up here in Langdon. So hope everybody has a healthy, great year. So thank you.
No doubt. Thanks, bud. There he is, Josh Krivarchka joining us, head coach at Langdon Area Munich Cardinals, the defending champions in Class A, and stands to reason they're going to be awfully good again. Again, that stat, they've lost 13 games. 13 games over the last 10 years. They've had 4 undefeated seasons during that. They've had 2 other seasons where they lost 1 game. It's just a remarkable stretch of success going on in Class A. And he's dead right about what we talked about the alignment part. 3A's got to get its act together because that's where it's been all messed up. All of it trickles down. So if 3A gets it right with this realignment, we get to 16 teams, and that means the Grand Forks schools are playing up. Maybe Fargo South joins the party again, and Minot North is back up And if Williston or Dickinson is playing at that top level, then everything else can go back to normal. Then everybody's at their correct, like water reaches the right level. Because it's just since 2020, it has been bleeped up. That's now we're going on 7 football seasons. This is the 7th football season where it's been all messed up. We can get that figured out for 2027. We're living well. All right, let's break. We got some breaking Timberwolves news to share. Goes back to what we were talking about earlier in the show, and a few emails coming in as well. We'll do that when Hot Mike returns on a Friday morning. We're back after this. Welcome back, everybody. Looks like going to be a beautiful Friday on tap. A little muggy throughout the weekend, but nothing we can't handle, especially after we had 3 straight weeks of the grossness that hopefully is long gone and out of the system here. We were mentioning this earlier in the show on the Wolves schedule when it was announced. It now is official. The email came in earlier. Minnesota Timberwolves retire Kevin Garnett's number 21 jersey. The big ticket, the greatest player in franchise history, to be honored on February 28th, 2027, as part of season-long celebration of his legacy. Email goes, the Minnesota Timberwolves today announced that franchise legend and Naismith Basketball Hall of Famer Kevin Garnett, his iconic number 21 jersey, will be retired on February the 28th, 2027, following the team's game against the Boston Celtics on NBC's Sunday Night Basketball at Target Center. The jersey retirement will serve as the centerpiece of a season-long celebration honoring Garnett's extraordinary impact on the Wolves, the state of Minnesota, and an entire generation of basketball fans. The celebration will also serve as a signature moment in the organization's new partnership with Garnett, who returned to the Timberwolves in December of 2025 as team ambassador, reuniting the franchise with a player who forever changed the trajectory of basketball in Minnesota. That's pretty cool. He'll become the second player in franchise history to have his number retired, joining his former teammate Malik Sealy, whose number 2 was retired following his tragic passing. I remember that in 2000. That was so sad a deal. So there it is. What do we think tickets are going to be for that? $2,500, $3,000, $4,000. I mean, easy to get in. It's a night game on a Sunday. KG and the Celtics. I mean, that's a lot, and it's a nationally televised game. Come on, that's going to be a big deal.
$50,000 courtside.
$50,000 to sit courtside.
That's my guess.
That's a lot of coin. Let's mark it down. Mark the tape down. Let's see if we're right when we get back in about 6 months, if that's anywhere close to accurate. $50,000. Yeah, you might not be right. I mean, the courtside seats are, I'm just saying in the building. Like if you're up in the upper tank, like, I don't know.
Upper tank.
Like 5,000?
15 to 2,500.
15 to $2,500. Okay. All
because
right.
I think both teams are going to be good, and it's going to be for like a playoff spot.
Both teams should be good, we imagine.
Could be a finals preview.
Boston's not going to be good. Boston traded Jaylen Brown. They're done. I could say that McFeely's not here. So, by the way, did you get a new mic? It sounds fantastic.
My mic?
Yeah.
No, it's the same one. I just turned it up a little bit.
It sounds fantastic.
Well, that's good.
I love it. All right, so there it has. We've set the bar there for what potentially could be the case for that. Email comes in. Dom, did you see yesterday who Boise State announced a game with? I did not until I got this email. Boise State of the new formed Pac-12 conference that's so much better than the Mountain West, right? Added an opponent for next season. Boise State is going to play Western Illinois. Western Illinois. That's their FCS game next season. I'm sitting here now telling you we got to get a game between NDSU and Boise. That seems like the logical next step for North Dakota State for future non-conference games as matchups with the Pac-12 conference. And by the way, they're only paying them $475K. That's nothing. For Western Illinois, it's a lot of money, but that is relatively nothing in the grand scheme of things. By the way, here's Boise's schedule, non-con next year. At App State. That's not bad. South Florida home, okay. At Marshall, and then home for Western Illinois. As I look in 2028, they only have 2 non-con games scheduled. At Cincinnati on September the 2nd, and then home for Georgia Southern on September the 16th. My spidey sense tells me NDSU has one of those dates still open. Because remember now, we're looking down the road that every year is going to be 12 games, right? So you don't have to worry about that. The Bison only have the Oregon date filled. That's September 2nd. So September 9th is open. September 23rd is open. Make it happen. Have it be a home and home. The Bison go to Boise to start, and then Boise comes back the following year or 2 years later. I'm looking here. Boise still has an opening in 29 or in 30. Just that's the natural progression of what we're doing scheduling-wise here. Look to the Pac-12. That, to me, makes the most sense. If you're looking at it in terms of, at least right away that the Power 4 games are going to be awfully hard. Maybe there's something out there that I don't know. But if you can't get those, then you're looking at, let's look at Boise State, Utah State, Washington State, Oregon State, right? Colorado State. That's the natural, and set up home and homes there. Boise, San Diego State, whatever. Those teams that just left the Mountain West are the ones you're looking to play, at least for me. Eric, what do you got?
So with Boise State going to the Pac-12, are they going to be willing to set up a home and home and give up? I don't know what their stadium seats, but are they going to be willing to give up like a home game, or are they going to pay NDSU to come out there, being that the Pac-12 used to be the part of the Power 5?
Yeah, I think Albertson, by the way, is $36,000 at seats at Boise State's home stadium. Typically in those home and home deals, there's maybe a minor exchange of money, but it's not a lot. At least it was in the FCS. I don't think it changes much in the FBS part of the equation. And if you're looking, because remember now, the format for the CFP changes this year. It's not the highest ranked conference champion. It's just the highest ranked of the group of 6 schools. So to your point, if you're playing a harder strength of schedule, that's what you need to do. Those kind of games make sense, right? It only helps your strength of schedule. It helps both leagues' strength of schedule. It would help the Pac-12 and it helped the Mountain West if you're playing better games, especially if the Power 4 is restricting it, saying we're only going to play against each other, essentially. Maybe we'll throw a bone to another FBS, to a group of 6 school, but essentially they're not going to do that. Because that's the new, and I have to emphasize this, we're going to talk about it on next week's preview show that we have on WDAY a week from Sunday on the CFP format. Because people understood how the FCS playoffs work. I think there's a majority of people, maybe I'm wrong, that don't understand how the CFP works. Because it keeps changing. It's changing again this year. You got one last thought before we go to break?
Yeah, just a crazy idea that I don't even know if people would do for scheduling. But why doesn't the Mountain West and Pac-12 create a scheduling agreement where one team, because I think there's 10 and 10 if I'm not mistaken, where NDSU, you're gonna go play Oregon State this year, but then San Diego State's coming back to Fargo the following year or something like that. That would alleviate some of their scheduling headaches. At least one game. Basketball does that almost exclusively with the scheduling alliances. Football used to do that a while ago. They've abandoned that now. Now it's basically survival of the fittest here. It's basically, hey, can we who can we schedule to make sure we rack up the most wins? And now you have to be looking at it at a more holistic approach. How can we help everybody out? If we're good and we're scheduling good teams, that helps our resume, because honestly, if you want a CFP berth and you play in the Mountain West, or you play in the Sun Belt, and you play in Conference USA, you are going to have to go 12-0 first up, flat out, and then have your league be good. It's going to take a tremendous amount of luck, because it's so different from last year to this year. It's so different because last year it was just the 5
highest-ranked conference champions that got the automatic bid. That's how Tulane got in. That's how James Madison got in, because they were ranked higher than the ACC champion. They were ranked higher than the who else was in it? The Conference USA champ, higher than the Mountain West champ. That's why Boise was left out, right? That's how Tulane out of the American and how JMU out of the Sun Belt got in. That ain't happening anymore. It's just flat out it's done because the ACC, the Big 12, the Big 10, and the SEC have guaranteed spots. And if Notre Dame is ranked in the top 12, they get an automatic spot. So they've rigged it to make sure the best teams in the quote-unquote the best teams in the best leagues get in. So to your point, it'd sure be nice if they did something like that. I think so many are just looking out for, number one, how do we get most amount of wins in the shortest amount of time? By the way, the Pac-12 only has, I forgot here because they've changing on this, they only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They only have 8. They need a couple. They've added more for basketball because, remember, Gonzaga's in there for hoops. But for football, they only have 8 with Texas State, remember, now is a Pac-12 school as well. All right, let's get caught up. Good stuff there. When we break, we'll come back. You met one wide receiver on the Bison football team yesterday in Isaiah St. Romain. Today, Jeremiah Patterson on his journey from Arizona, San Mateo Community College out in California, to now Fargo. That's coming up when we come back.
This is Hot Mic with Dom Izzo, presented by Northwestern Mutual.
Welcome back, everybody. Final interview of the week here as we barrel towards the weekend on our program. Bison are going to be wrapping up week 3 of fall camp later today. I'll be out there. We'll have a few more interviews to gather and some other observations because after today, we have one more availability coming up on Monday, and then fall camp is donezo. And then it's on to actual game prep for Jacksonville State. We'll get you ready for that next week. I'm hopeful we're going to hear from the Gamecocks on our show coming up next week to get us ready for the opener, which is, crazily enough, 2 weeks from tomorrow for the Bison season opener against Jacksonville State out of Conference USA, the champs there. On the Bison side of things, I know yesterday Sam had a really interesting, informative sit-down with Isaiah St. Romain out of Williston, North Dakota, who's hoping that he's the guy to step up in that wide receiver group. You know, there's a bunch of younger players. He's one of them with Logan Conklin out of Minot, Kate Osterman. Gores isn't a young guy. He's actually a senior. Dylan Vogel out of Maple Grove. In that contingent of like who's going to step up and say I can play. St. Romain certainly seems like a guy who can do that. But the Bison did add 3 transfer wide receivers after spring ball ended to pretty much up their talent level at that spot. And one of the players they added is Jeremiah Patterson. And we talked a little bit about him when he announced his transfer back in May, that he was coming from University of Arizona, from the Big 12 Conference, to play one last year of football at NDSU. His career started actually at San Mateo Community College. You're going to hear, I won't give too much more away about his connection of how he got to Fargo, but he's played 2 years there, played 2 years in Tucson, and a couple years ago, 2024, had a really nice season, whether it was receiving or returning, which is where NDSU can see potentially his value on the field in 2026. We started our interview, though, where I asked him basically about his transition to Fargo and how that's gone over the last couple of months.
Honestly, it's been great. It's a great transition. You know, everybody been, helping me out. It's just, coming from Arizona, like you said, weather difference, not much, but, moving situation, learning the playbook, getting to know my teammates and everything has been a great, feel like home. So, just.
I want to ask about the whole portal conversation you had. Like, you go in, like, what did NDSU reach out? Did you go here? Like, can you give us the backstory of how this all this came together?
Yeah, so Coach Amoko, his brother was my receiver coach. I'm a JUCO athlete, so I went to college at San Mateo. My receiver coach was other Coach Amoko, his twin brother. And so, got a call from his brother and kind of started off like that. I was training, and while I was in the portal, I was training at my JUCO, just getting work and stuff like that. So, got one call from his brother and kind of just start catching up, build a relationship, got on the phone with Coach Crutchley, then Coach P and everything. So that's kind of how the relationship started.
What did you know, if anything, about North Dakota State prior to all this?
I didn't know that much, but I did know, I watched a few games without knowing what school it was, like that Colorado game. Mm-hmm. I remember watching in the past, not really knowing much about this school, but everything started to click. I remember this school, I remember watching certain games.
So you committed sight unseen, right? Did you come up here before you committed?
Yeah, I came on a visit.
So what did you see? What took away when, all right, I could see myself in here?
So I can just Coach P, I see a lot of similarities with my old coach, Tim Tullock at College of San Mateo. The way he carries himself, coaches all the teammates. A lot of head coaches like, to step back a little bit, but, he's in the middle of practice, seen him call some guys out. The intensity during the practices, seeing guys, the leadership and everything, kind of knowing that they're serious about what they do here.
How have you seen yourself fit in with the other wide receivers so far? You've played a lot of ball, so tell me how that transition has gone of fitting in with a group of some guys that have been here and some other new guys that are just like yourself in the same boat.
Honestly, it's been great so far. My guys been able to help me and get me on track with the playbook, just how they run things around here. Honestly, same vice versa. I've been able to help some of the guys out. I have a lot of experience, but again, the leadership here has been great. Someone able to hold me accountable for my mistakes. Coaches calling me out, but overall, this is a playbook I have experience with. My junior college, we ran a similar play style, so fits perfectly.
I know you also did special teams. Describe that role of kick return, punt return, and how that also can help at the wide receiver position.
Yeah, honestly, so I have a lot of friends that's in the National Football League right now. They always tell me, outside of offense, where it's at, it's in the kicking game. So return game is something I've always done, while playing football. So it's one of my strengths. I know, how to catch the ball back there, punt return, kick return, make plays, put my team in a better field position. I know for other guys, may not want to do that, but I try to tell some of my teammates, to go back there and show them what you can do, because we need more guys to, appreciate it back there. So
my last thing is just, where do you see yourself, August 29th is not that far, we're a month away from playing, of getting assimilated and say, okay, I can go out there and I can help the team right away, game one. How important is the next 30 days for you to get ready for that?
It means everything, honestly. Right around the corner, like you said. We don't have that much time, so just making sure, lock into the details every single day, taking one day at a time. Making sure I get to, I didn't have much time to get to know my teammates, but using every day to learn my teammates. We're out there, lunch, breakfast, dinner, sitting with each other, getting to know each other every day, especially on the field, grinding, hard days, good days, bad days, just cherishing it. My last year, just making sure that it's memorable for sure.
How would you describe yourself as a player? What are some strengths that you have on the field?
Honestly, it starts with my mentality. Regardless of the situation, I'm prepared, good or bad. I'm able to grow from my mistakes. I'm a playmaker. I lift up my teammates. The type of leadership the leadership role I have is more so leading by example. I'm able to talk to my brothers aside, help them and things like that. What I bring to the table is just energy, juice, momentum shifter.
Conversation with Jeremiah Patterson. As we mentioned, interesting connections. Again, how it works in the portal world, that Eric Amoko's twin brother coached him at San Mateo Community College, and there's the connection if you're looking for a guy. And, boy, he has the physical traits of Raja Nelson. If you were watch that video out there, and all of us, and it's not just us, I think some of the Bison players have remarked to us as well, that he just has the same stature and ability that Raja Nelson had, and that's a guy who obviously played for 6 years. How many big catches did that guy have, especially in 2024? I can think of 4 of them off the top of my head right now in the 24 season that just popped. Like, man, they don't win. They don't win against South Dakota State, and they don't win against Montana State without Raj making a couple of those plays. And that's Patterson's now trying to, I don't know if emulate's probably too strong a word, but just find that role. And it seems like Nathan Hayes and him have a good rapport since he's arrived in June and been working out with the group throughout the summer and now through fall camp. And I'm really interested to see how they use him on special teams. We've been out there at practice for the times we've had availability, and he has been out there. You saw the one-handed catch he had, by the way, which is outrageous. But his ability to go out there and return is something that you can't discount getting out there on the field. That will be really intrigued to see that. We'll have more on him and the other newcomers coming up on our preview show, which we'll chat more about that before we wrap up the show in our next segment. But that's a guy, if you're looking at the 12 transfers they brought in the top 3 or 4 are going to play, he's certainly going to be one of them. Kenna Anene is going to be another one at right tackle. I think that goes without saying. I think Naoti Puni is another one that goes without saying at a running back. Those 3 are probably the 3 transfers I'd say. And then DJ Volts at corner. Those are the 4, I would say, that are going to play. And they're going to play a lot this upcoming season. Be interesting to get back out there at camp today, get some more evaluations, how they're going to share with that on Monday's program. And then we're getting awfully close to game week and actually start playing some ball, which is in the not-too-distant future. All right, we'll take one last break. We come back. We'll wrap things up, get you ready for a football weekend. Yes, there's football being played. Hot Mike will wrap up on WDAY Extra right after this. All right, wrapping things up here on a busy week. Looking forward to the weekend. We'll be back with you on Monday. A little Vikings game to actually chat about. That'll be fun. As we mentioned, we'll be locked and loaded for a new week of Bison football coverage as well as we get ready for the season opener coming up on August the 29th. So looking forward to that. We'll see how the Twins fare this weekend. And a few other guys getting onto the football field in various other preseason games. There's 3 games tonight and then a bunch more on Saturday. The preseason schedule is always mystifying to me how they do this, because then there's no game Sunday, which means it's odd, and then we come back and play games on Thursday, and then there's a couple of nationally televised games that are interspersed throughout the weekend as well. So, but that means we're getting closer to the start of the season. Looking forward to that. I wanted to share this one quick thing before we do what to watch and get out of here for the week. ESPN has a story out today. Headline goes, ranking all 138 FBS teams in tiers. Who rises to the top? And there are literally like 20 some odd tiers here. Tier 1 is Indiana, Miami, Notre Dame, Ohio State. Real surprise there, right? And now this is a list that we care about. And I'm scrolling here down to Tier 9. Tier 9 is listed as, so you're saying there's a chance, and the teams listed in there are Boise State, James Madison, Navy, North Dakota State, San Diego State, Toledo, South Florida, UNLV, and Texas San Antonio. And it writes, going through last year's all-conference teams in the American Conference USA, MAC, Mountain West, and Sun Belt, you'll find 76 players with remaining eligibility. Just 23 of them, 30%, return to the same school. It's hard to argue that outside of the top programs, the group of 6 is anything more than a developmental league for guys who will bolt for the Power 4 and significant money after any success at their current home. And that is accurate. I don't think it's accurate for every school. We'll find out. The guys at NDSU that departed after last season left because competition wasn't what they wanted. Obviously, that's going to be different, we expect, this coming year in the Mountain West. But that doesn't dissuade the fact that now you're at this level, that the amount of money that you can get going to the Big Ten and the SEC is, we talked about that on Wednesday's show, is outrageous. Says it doesn't mean there aren't exceptions with aspirations still high enough to warrant playoff talk, and the teams in Tier 9 are both invested at something beyond a typical Group of 6 level and have a real chance at making the college football playoff. Bam! That's why you do it as well. That's why you make the move. Let's do some What to Watch before we get out of here. All right, here we go. So tonight, remember, no Twins because they had the day off because they played yesterday. How about New York Jet football tonight? They've got Tampa, 6 o'clock tonight on the NFL Network. If you really want to pull your eyeballs out, you can watch the Jets tonight because I'm going to do that. Wings and the Fever. That's a good WNBA game tonight. We got Paige Beckers against Caitlin Clark, 6:30 on ION TV. And for you baseball nuts that have Apple TV, you can watch the Cardinals and Cubs from Wrigley. That's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. Those are two teams, hate each other. People want to watch. It's on Apple TV for that one tonight. Don't forget, we're back with you Sunday night, our first of 2 preview shows, 10:35, right after the news. Sam Getzer and myself to get you all ready on everything Bison football. That's at 10:35 Sunday night on WDAY. If you miss it, we'll podcast it and also be available in forum.com and WDAY Plus the next day. Also, don't forget this weekend, couple other things here. Vikes at noon tomorrow on Fox. The Lynx play Saturday night against Vegas on CBS. And the first of the FedEx Cup playoffs in Memphis, Sunday, final round, 1 o'clock on CBS. Our thanks to Cory Provus, to Josh Krivarchka, to Jeremiah Patterson. Have a great weekend, everybody. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you back here on Monday.